Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dandavat Pranam, welcome to Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya. Today we are very happy to have the association of His Grace Gaurachandra Gopinath Prabhu. He'll be continuing with the Prabhupada Lilamritha, chapter 43. This is all about the Krishna Balarama temple. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, welcome. We are eager to continue hearing from you.
Okay, Prabhu, am I audible now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamanyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandegam Shri Guru Shri Yuda Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajiva Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lilita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Yadi Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshadarine Mahamadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sude Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Grim Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinadarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. Welcome all the devotees. Today, Prabhupada lilamritha. I seek all the Vaishnavas' blessings before I speak on this topic. So, the chapter entitled Beginning the Temple of Krishna Balarama. We saw half of that previous week. Quick recap. Prabhupada is like in the in the Vrindavan. There are multiple deadlines were given. Prabhupada keep on pushing them to make this temple happen. So basically, Surabhi Prabhu and Gurudas Maharaj, they were trying to. That time he was Gurudas Prabhu. So that time, both of them were trying to build this temple, and Prabhupada and how the accounting process he made very strict so that people are not cheated. He was trying to educate his people, and Prabhupada was given uh, Prabhupada moved into Vrindavan, where is even though it is the fully not constructed his quarters, Prabhupada was happy to stay there, and Prabhupada constantly instructing them to do that. And Prabhupada also we seen how he faced the issue in Vrindavan also, like Bombay, a court case where not a court case, a problem where the person who is donated the land want to take the front portion of the land. How Prabhupada wrote the story of Nirga and take an example from Bhagavatam. So how Prabhupada is very much solving all the problem based on Srimad Bhagavatam, and also his instruction is disciple how to live in Vrindavan. Then we moved into Mayapur, and Mayapur Prabhupada 400 devotees waiting, and he is too happy to see Bhaktivinoda Thakur vision has come true that all the boys and all over the world people will get together and they would they would perform kirtan. So Prabhupada again from Mayapur, he is going to Vrindavan. So we will continue from here today. Today we will see little portion of it Mayapur. Then we go to Vrindavan. Prabhupada again goes to Mumbai. Again he goes to Hyderabad and Tirupati. And again he comes back to Vrindavan. So we will take a journey as we progress. So during Gaur Purnima time, so we are in Mayapur Gaur Purnima time. The importance of Gaur Purnima is that, especially that 1974 Gaur Purnima, what happened is that Prabhupada released Adi Leela, chapter 7 to 11, and people just most of the time they believed what Prabhupada said about the Sankirtan, about Krishna. But this Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially in ninth chapter of Adi Leela, talks about glories of Sankirtana. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mentions that Navadipa is the place where Mahaprabhu planted the seed for Krishna consciousness. So it took many branches and many groups of people formed, and it is covering all over the world. So this Chaitanya Charitamrita is the fruit of Chaitanya tree. Mahaprabhu stressed preaching without any restriction. This gave a lot of joy and lot of conviction to the devotee, saying once it is out, Prabhupada is acting exactly like what is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is mentioned, Bharata Bhumite Hoile Manushya Janma Yara, Janma Sartaka Kori Kara Para Upahara. So this is the word it is quoted, and the devotees were reading and they are seeing this. The wonderful preaching mission happen, and they convinced this is the way to preach. And Prabhupada also writes one word in one of the purport. Our International Society for Krishna Conscious is one of the branches of Chaitanya tree. And people, so the devotees were so excited about knowing that we are the bona fide parampara, and how ISKCON is propagating exactly what Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Mahaprabhu wishes. So the devotees were very enthusiastic to preach. So then further it is mentioned that in India people are misdirected, especially the politicians. They are not very much interested towards the God consciousness, but the Sankirtan needs to be propagated. If followed Mahaprabhu's instruction, India would have given a unique gift to the world, and thus India would have been glorified. Prabhupada said, so there are most of them are misdirected in India. If ideally, if India would have followed Mahaprabhu teaching the Sankirtan movement, they would have been set an ideal example for the entire world to follow. Unfortunately, this was not happening. So we will go from Mayapur to Vrindavan. So generally what happens is Prabhupada, they come for Mayapur festival, Gaur Purnima attend. After that they all go to Vrindavan and see the Vrindavan. Then they go to respective places for preaching. So during Gaur Purnima in Mayapur, Prabhupada stayed for a week and he gave a lectures daily, meeting, morning walks. And also on the day of Gaur Purnima, he went along with disciples to Ganges path, and the people celebrated Gaur Purnima, and the next day Prabhupada leaving to Vrindavan. So, but the devotees who have come for Mayapur, even though they are foreigners, they had a lot of difficulties here because of indigestion, not proper accommodation, dysentery, they were having homesick, and also they can see the cultural shock what they have to see in India. But still, somehow Prabhupada, they were enthusiastic to follow Prabhupada and they were all going. And they reached Vrindavan. And Prabhupada again went to his quarters, which are still in the construction site in Krishna Balarama temple. But the devotees all stayed in the Fogal Ashram, which is just opposite to diagonally opposite place. And Prabhupada stayed in the new temple. So then the evening Prabhupada he would conduct lectures. Sometime he would go out, walk, meet the devotees in the Fogal Ashram. So one evening, on the first day of evening, Prabhupada wanted to give lecture, but you see that people were missing. Some of them are tired, they were sleeping. Some of them are went to see the deities around it, and some of them went to Loi Bazaar to purchase something. So Prabhupada said, where are the devotees? And he said, the purpose of coming to Vrindavan, coming to pilgrimage means coming to where the sadhus are. I am here, so where is everyone is gone? So Prabhupada has heavily told them to get all of them uh, uh, to his lectures. So people then immediately all the devotees rushed and came. And Prabhupada gave a very wonderful instruction. He talked about on the topic of tapasya. Uh, uh, so he was explaining how the Babajis in the Vrindavan, they want to get rid of this material life. So they're determined, they do tapasya of walking naked in the cold or heat doesn't matter, they walk naked because they want to renounce their life. So similarly, tapasya, we need to execute in this age. So Prabhupada said, what is tapasya definition? It is not the austerity of being naked or like other Babajis. Prabhupada said is transforming other people or in essence preaching. So I will read this. This is a very wonderful para. I've taken out from it. It gives amazing example. And Prabhupada gives the example of a baby who's in the mother's womb. It has been like tied, your hands are tied and put it into the ocean and the worms are biting it. And we feel really, Maya is like covering all these things and we feel we are really happy, we want to take birth again. How it is very difficult in this age, take birth again in the womb of mother, and Prabhupada explains. So this life is for tapasya. Prabhupada said, we can't execute severe penances in this age. So our penances is try to reform poor, crazy persons. One should voluntarily pains for Krishna. Krishna comes to save the fallen souls. So if you help little, he will be pleased. Krishna comes himself and sends his devotees, leaves his book, and still we are mad for sense enjoyment. Our penances, therefore, is try to reform the fallen souls. Prabhupada said, our tapasya is to be preaching. Then Prabhupada said, one lifetime we may be a wealthy human being. In the next life, we are a bug or a hog or a dog. So our tapasya is that in this lifetime, I need to get rid of it. Otherwise, Prabhupada is talking about how difficult it is to be in the mother's womb. And I also happened to be here during the Mayapur when they inaugurated the Sankirtan festival. One of the senior devotee was mentioning about this tapasya. He said Bhakti Vinod Thakur did lot of tapasya. He slept for only 1.5 hours, 2 hours. He wrote a lot of literatures. He fought against the the false gurus, Sagajias, Brahmanas, and he made a place for us to continue this Krishna conscious life. Otherwise, he practically revived it. After the sixth Goswami, it is went down the lane, and there are a lot of misconception about Vaishnavas, and it was not growing. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur did a lot of tapasya. That was his tapasya to Krishna conscious movement. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he did millions of Nama Japa. He did for 10 years consecutively in a bhajan, and he did chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur told, I did tapasya to purify the entire world. Imagine when Prabhupada was coming and he was trying to preach how this would happen. That's why Prabhupada always said, it is my Guru Maharaj mercy. He knew the difficulties of the fallen conditioned soul. So he wanted to purify the entire world. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati gave the platform for us to go and preach, for Srila Prabhupada to preach. And Prabhupada did tapasya. What did the tapasya? He also not slept not more than 2-3 hours. And he wrote volumes of literature for the people to come. That's his tapasya. And the devotees, as ISKCON devotees, what is our tapasya? Simply distribute these books or the message of Krishna consciousness. That would be our tapasya. So it is confirmed here. Prabhupada says that our tapasya or anybody's tapasya is that just reform the poor crazy persons. So that's a wonderful explanation by Prabhupada. Then Prabhupada talks about in continuation that then one devotee has explained, Prabhupada, we are finding it very difficult to deal with the devotees. We can deal with the non-devotees, it's very much okay. But dealing with the Vaishnavas, we should be very careful, but they are not matured. So many times there are a lot of fight happens or a lot of quarrels happens. How do we manage that? And Prabhupada said, that's your penance. Your penance is to work with such and such a person. You should take anxiety. We should take anxiety. For a sane man to work with a crazy man is not pleasurable, but service to Krishna is pleasurable. Prabhupada was basically telling that the preaching activity is not so easy. For example, book distribution. So you have to go out, take a lot of effort, meet people, and many people will turn away. There is not so much of pleasurable things in that. But when you make new devotees, there are a lot of devotees coming, then it is pleasurable. So Prabhupada said the work is not pleasurable, but but when we see so many devotees, it's pleasurable. So Prabhupada described how he had left this peaceful life in Vrindavan. I said I left this Vrindavan. I took anxiety for Krishna, going to America, old age. So this similar thing, one should take anxiety or burden for Krishna. So Prabhupada continually to instruct his disciples on how Prabhupada is set an example. And also he has explained Vrindavan is for Paramahamsas. This is the very famous, another 2 slides are very famous instruction of those who are visiting Vrindavan, what should be the mood and how long one should stay and what one should do in Vrindavan. These are the instruction. First instruction Prabhupada gave us that when we go to Dham, we need to go and meet the sadhus or take the association of sadhus, not just seeing Vrindavan. Number 1. Number 2 is that don't commit any mistakes, especially illicit sex. That's one of the worst offenses which can be done in the Dham. And it is for the Paramahamsas. Although devotees had been visiting the various temples of Vrindavan, eager to imbibe the Vrindavan spirit, the nectar came from when Prabhupada, sitting in his room, spoke about Vrindavan. And Prabhupada said, Vrindavan is for Paramahamsas. You can't see Vrindavan with Vishaya or material spirit. The test is how much you are conquering your eating, sleeping, and mating. This is another instruction. How much you are doing restriction or eating, sleeping, and mating. Don't think you can just come to Vrindavan and become Goswami. One who comes Vrindavan with material spirit will take birth as a dog or monkey in Vrindavan. This is another famous instruction I also heard from another Vaishnavas. Anybody who has the material desire, they will born as a dog or a monkey in Vrindavan Dham, especially those who have more sexual desires, opposite sex enjoyment, but they want to be devotee, then they all will take birth as a monkeys in Vrindavan. That's a punishment, but we need to see them as a Vaishnavas. It is left to Krishna and the Brajavasis. Sometimes you might see them, they might be smoking or they might be breaking a regulative principle. This is up to Krishna to deliver them. We should always respectfully deal with them because they are Vaishnavas. And further, the same topic, Prabhupada continues and he gives a further instruction on Vrindavan. People says that the people come to Vrindavan, they don't bother about the family life because they want to give up everything. So one should not have any anxiety. But at the same time, Prabhupada said we need to be, there is a risk of Sagajias. Those who are Sagajias, they seek for women, they talk only about the Rasalila, they take BD and they break the four regulative principle, but sometimes the people might be misguided and take their shelter. So Prabhupada was warning not to take their shelter and come one to control their senses, eating, mating, sleeping in Vrindavan, then that's a real Vrindavan. And also it says, Prabhupada, it's more of consciousness. Vrindavan is not a place. If you are in the mood of preaching, if you are in the mood of controlling your senses, then that's the message. The real Vrindavan is not eat prasadam and sleep, but follow the advice of Vrindavan Chandra. The broadcast is message. So that is the state of consciousness. Always be on the preaching of mood, then it is called Vrindavan. The Narottama Das Thakur, Vrindavan is not possible. Again, Prabhupada, you see the theme. Prabhupada never talked about Vrindavan when the disciples were mentioned in this Bhakti Sarus Maharaj writes that Prabhupada never talked about the pastimes of Vrindavan. When he was in the Vrindavan, he talked about two things. Either he would criticize the Babajis, those who are there, or he would say that through Vishaya or the material vision, you can't see Vrindavan. These were the two primary topics from Prabhupada talked about Vrindavan when he was in Vrindavan. Then he talked about devotional service here multiplies 100 times and also offenses. So maximum stay 3 days and leave the 4th day. So then he also gives another instruction. Prabhupada has given so much instruction. You will see further. Prabhupada has given how to see the auditing, how to create different accounts, the BBT account, construction account, temple management account, how to maintain an accounting process. He taught us how to chant. He taught us how to cook. He taught us how to wear tilaka. He taught us how to play mridanga. He taught us the Matajis how to wear saris. He taught how to wear dhotis. He taught about how to run the GBC. He taught about the temple management. He talked about the book distribution. What not Prabhupada not taught? He taught how to manage with the politicians and the bureaucrats when the temple construction was happening. When there is a conflict, how to cooperate together. How to write volumes of book. Prabhupada, you see, he is given everything. If you just simply follow, read Prabhupada books, and everything is there. There is nothing outside which we need to go and seek or hear. So here, when anybody is going to Vrindavan, if you read this pastime of this chapter, he gives a proper instruction of how to see Vrindavan, what needs to be done, how long wants to stay, like that. And there is another famous instruction Prabhupada gives, how the Nityam Bhagavata Sevya should be conducted. When he was giving lecture, the Sagajiyas, they used to leave because Prabhupada said they want to hear about Radharani and Krishna's conjugal pastime. So that's why they are leaving. Don't bother about them. The standard is that one verse per day. So Prabhupada is take one verse in Bhagavatam, then we would speak. That's a standard. Anyone conducts Srimad Bhagavatam, they would assign one sloka, then that should be spoken. And he gave an example of his Bhaktistan Saraswati Thakur. He spoke Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, first text for 3 months, which give more respect to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said there should be a standard all over ISKCON that at least one verse every day, that should be the standard. Then there is one of his disciple gone to one Radhakund Babaji. He given a shelter and he said, you can chant here, I'll give facility. So that person left the association of the ISKCON devotees and he was chanting in Radhakund Babaji Maharaj. So Prabhupada asked him, called him the devotee. He said, what are you doing it? Where you went? Then he said, no, I am going. He dressed simply only in dhoti. He did not have any upper wears and things like that. He wanted to be more renounced and things like that. And Prabhupada chastised him, saying that don't, monkeys also in Vrindavan, they live simply, but they always think about eating and sex. Don't become monkey. You don't know what is that. So I will also give facility. You come and stay here. So seeing the compassionate of Prabhupada, the devotee come back. So there is one more article which is disciple Hagri has written in BTG that Goswamis in Vrindavan who misbehave in the Dham, they become hogs and monkeys. This disturbed the Sagajiyas there and they are all complaining to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, that is true, whatever you have written is correct. So this what would happen. So Prabhupada wants us living in Vrindavan, how many days one should, the more the offenses multiplies, how the monkeys and dogs, they will be cursed to become. And these are the instruction practically he was giving it. So there is another wonderful pastime, the loving exchange with Prabhupada. Then this is the second example in this chapter. The first example was when was this when there is a problem, how to manage the problem. First problem was the Vrindavan land, and he quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the second instance where Prabhupada dealing with the disciple Yamuna Devi, Yamuna Dasi. She is afraid, seeing Prabhupada was heavy because he wanted pushing the temple construction. She is afraid of Prabhupada anger and she didn't come to serve Prabhupada. And Prabhupada asking, where is Yamuna Devi? Why she is not coming? That she confessed, saying, Prabhupada, I'm really afraid because I'm seeing you last 2 months, you've been really heavy, especially temple construction of Vrindavan. Then Prabhupada narrated this Srimad Bhagavatam instance. Again, he's taking an example from Srimad Bhagavatam, explaining his to dear disciple. And he told this Yamuna Devi, once Balaram wanted to bring Yamuna, he wants to take a sportive, but she is afraid, he did not come. But Balaram took his plow and he was trying to divide her. And she came submissively. Then he said, Prabhupada was not mentioning Yamuna Devi's story, but he was talking about Yamuna Dasi. Similarly, I will pull you to come here. You can't escape. Then she understood from this pastime how Prabhupada was like, very solve the problems of the devotees and taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, giving example and convincing her that now you should continue to do that. Prabhupada, spiritual master might be heavy, but that does not mean that you can't come here. This is for more purification. So this is a wonderful pastime happen, and Prabhupada continued to live in Vrindavan, instruct people. This is the famous, very interesting topic Prabhupada discussing with his disciple. Most of us, all of us have this common worry. Why in Vrindavan it's so elevated? The trees are kalpatarus and these are yogis. The dogs and the other people are all the animate, inanimate, everybody is pure Vaishnava. They're all realized soul. But sometimes they see, externally they see, they may not be like that. So they were asking Prabhupada, how do we understand that? In Vrindavan, people are fallen, but they are supposed to be liberated. And Krishna book Prabhupada writes that in Vrindavan, they don't need a spiritual master because Krishna acts as a spiritual master. This is only for the Vrajavasis. And how do we understand that? Then Prabhupada said that they might have a spiritual master, but they may not obey him. If they don't obey, what is the destination for them? They are a fortune, but they are misusing their very fortune. And Prabhupada also gives that in Vrindavan used to be greenery, now it is very dry. That's because people are not following whatever Krishna has told. And he said, when I was in the Western world, there should be lots of green. And the devotee asked Prabhupada, it does not mean that Vrindavan are more pious. They're supposed to be more pious than the Westerners. Westerners impious, there are still a lot of green land. But in Vrindavan, it is not green. How do we understand that? Again, Prabhupada said, you are foreigners. You don't know what is four-relative principle. When I said that, you started following it. But Vrindavan is Krishna's land. Everybody is supposed to know and they need to follow. Since they are not following, Krishna directly punishing them. That's why here it is becoming, the land is becoming very dry and dry day by day. So Prabhupada was explaining the misfortune of the devotees. And another topic which Vrindavan, when he was discussing with the disciples, especially last two morning walks, Prabhupada summarized, condensed his vision for this Varnashrama college. Prabhupada is fond of establishing this Varnashrama Dharma. He's been talking about various places and he gave a instruction. Anybody wants to understand that they can read this passage where Prabhupada clearly defines how one should establish Varnashrama Dharma. Of course, Prabhupada said ISKCON devotees are beyond this Varna and Ashrama, but still they should set an ideal example for all over the world to follow. There will be no unemployment. A Brahmana should become a study books and guide the society. Kshatriya, they can wear tilak, they can soldier, they can march chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and they can go and fight. There is no issue, but they can chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That's what Prabhupada vision. Then the Vaishya community, they should not sit idle. They have to go and plow the land, take a bull, go on working. Why one should simply sit and there? So Prabhupada various condemning. See, this field it is empty because nobody is working. Everybody has gone to the cities to work in the factory. The Prabhupada was condemning this factory civilization. Everybody should work on the land, get some grain, and work this Varnashrama Dharma. And this is the vision Prabhupada had for Varnashrama Dharma. So this all happening in Vrindavan during the morning walks, and he was explaining the people. And this is the time when Prabhupada was getting message from Bombay. Again, Prabhupada will be traveling to Bombay because Giriraj Maharaj just came to Vrindavan with the sad news that they stopped. The municipality did not give permission to construct the temple, and there is no objection certificate given by the police commissioner. Initially, the police commissioner said, "Let the municipality give the approval, then we'll give no objection." Municipality said, "First of all, you have to get no objection from them." So this was going to and forth. Then finally, the commissioner said, "The Sankirtana is a nuisance. It will create nuisance around the people. That's why we are not giving it." They denied this NOC. So with this message, he came to Bombay, and Prabhupada later will be traveling from Vrindavan to Bombay. So we will see a little bit episode of how this pastimes of Prabhupada in Mumbai happens. Another couple of slides. Then we will be back to Hyderabad. Sorry, we will be going to Hyderabad, and then Prabhupada back to Vrindavan again. Then Prabhupada was, this is another classic example of how Prabhupada dealt with any difficulties, any conflict resolution, or with the government. Now this conflict is with the government. How Prabhupada was handling this, amazing. So Prabhupada was really annoyed. How can they say bhajana is a nuisance? He started quoting from Kirtaniya Sadarihi. Then he started quoting from Bhagavad Gita. And what kind of people do this bhajana, and how can they call it as Prabhupada was really unhappy. Then somebody suggested, instead of all our listeners going back from Vrindavan to respective places preaching, why don't we go like Chandkasi, like Mahaprabhu did? Let us all go and go up procession to the commissioner office and protest them. And somebody said one should take shelter of some political party, which is a Hindu kind of outfit, where they would support us. And Prabhupada see beyond all this thing. They said it is not a right approach directly to take head on with the government or the commissioners. Any of that's not going to be successful, and people may not appreciate. Instead, he saw everywhere it's opportunity for preach. Then he said, all of you now, go and preach to the people. Don't focus on the government. Go and preach, do a big Sankirtana and explain them about the glories of Sankirtan. You are all Westerners and we are trying to follow Krishna conscious, and you are Indian people, you know much more than us Krishna conscious. You identify a key pious activity or leader, ask him to come and sign the petition. You make him a leader and ask him, the people, when you convince about Krishna conscious to the people, they will petition to the government to construct a temple here. So you should approach to the people and start preaching vigorously. So Prabhupada saw this opportunity, and anybody else would have been seen as a threat and they would have panicked what to do. And Prabhupada said, increase more preaching. And Prabhupada's way of looking things were different. And instead of protesting directly, taking on to the government, then Prabhupada started preaching more vigorously in Bombay and asked the devotees to do it. Prabhupada said another thing is that this property located closer to the cinema hall, when commissioner says kirtan is a nuisance, uh, but you can see during the cinema hall when the people go out of after the cinema movie theater, there is a lot of rush, a lot of noise. Is that is okay? Then Prabhupada was heavily condemning this government, how they are God conscious, they misguiding the people. As soon as the Krishna conscious or any spiritual activity comes, they don't want to believe in any pious activity. But other than that, they entertain. So Prabhupada was heavily condemning this kind of modern so-called society. Then Prabhupada said, either I get approval for hotel or a temple. If they say bhajan is nuisance, let them approve for a hotel. We will have a hotel, and His Holiness the Paul Krishna Maharaj said, behind that we will have a temple altar. So behind the hotel. So either they have to approve, but I am fighting for approval. Either they let them give hotel or a temple. But Srila Prabhupada was unaffected by all these things from this life history. You can see that Prabhupada was continued his routine. He continued his bhajan. He continued to preach to his disciple. Continues to have walk. And Prabhupada seemed not being disturbed by this external whatever things are happening. And Prabhupada continued his routine. And then Prabhupada is traveling to Mumbai. Then immediately he gave instruction to Gurudas and other people. You need to fight against the false Babajis. You become false, then you will not be able to fight. So please continue construct the temple. And Prabhupada marched in 1974, moved to Juhu area. And Prabhupada first time, even though the property was there a lot of tenants occupied, nobody is vacated. And Prabhupada first time got a tenant vacated, and there was quarters, beautiful quarters, which where Prabhupada was staying. And there is a beautiful coconut trees and palm trees. Prabhupada said this is like a heaven. Uh, so devotees were happy and Prabhupada was there. And there are a lot of things were happening in Mumbai. And Prabhupada used to go regularly as usual walking. There's one of the episode is how one should be careful with the Mayavadi philosopher, how to deal with the Mayavadi philosophy and Mayavadi followers. So one time what happens is Prabhupada used to walk, and the devotees, some of the followers, the educated people, they would follow Prabhupada, they would argue with Prabhupada about Mayavadi. But Prabhupada's style is that he would generally condemn all the politicians. They don't know about Bhagavad Gita, value of Bhagavad Gita. One time Prabhupada was heavy in their hero, their favorite hero, Prabhupada condemned them. So they got really upset, saying, Prabhupada, how can you talk like that? And so they just left. And then Prabhupada disciples also disturbed. Then Prabhupada said, we should not actually hear Mayavada philosophy's arguments. Next, tomorrow when we go for a walk, we simply chant. If they want to follow us, that's okay. They let them hear chanting. Otherwise, we will not get into the argument like that. Then the Prabhupada walked, and opposite the devotees, the other group came. They voluntarily taken different route because they don't want to meet Prabhupada. They don't want to walk anymore with Prabhupada. One of the person said, "You're really hurt because India is having different philosophy. Everybody is right to follow. That's why we are not following." Prabhupada said, "That's all right. I'm a police here. I'm correcting it." Then later, after some time, again they would join Prabhupada after a few days, and they would again argue, and Prabhupada would correct them elderly as an elderly brother. So like that, this is a message was happening, and Prabhupada would sometime devotee would ask, this seems to be very pious people, but they're following Mayavada philosophy. They might be disguised in the devotee. How do we take it forward? Then Prabhupada said, like a woman, she might say, I'm broad-minded, I'm accepting everything, I can accept many women, many men. Similarly, this Mayavadis might think about like that, which is wrong, and he cautioned people not to follow Mayavada philosophy. And Prabhupada's routine was that he would get up in the morning, he would hold lectures, Bhagavatam morning walk. After that, he would have some nuts and fruits for this breakfast. 11 o'clock, he would have a massage. Then he would take little lunch and rest for hour two. Then again, he would have coconut water in the evening. Then he would start seeing the guests till 10. Then again, he will get up at few hours rest. Again get up at 1 a.m. and Prabhupada continued to his walk. Sometimes people would think that Prabhupada walking is too long in Vrindavan. Say sometimes Prabhupada is walking back to his Delhi. He would go back. He says some more walk. Prabhupada is to walk to Delhi. So that's why devotees used to see Prabhupada is to take long walk, and which is he was continuing in here Mumbai as well. And Prabhupada gave a very, very wonderful, heart touching, please listen, very interesting, this heart touching humility of Prabhupada you can see from this episode. Very, very heart moving after reading this. Prabhupada said, at this my age, most of the people retire. And I want to do something like that. I want to go and retire and write. Nobody writes any mail or something. Like Gandhi, he was want to get retired, but people were following him. I want to go 6 months somewhere and don't want to disturb. Then devotee said, Teheran is the place you can go. Then Prabhupada said, I can go to New Vrindavan as well, he suggested. While the conversation going on, there was Bhagavan Das from Paris. He called up Prabhupada saying that he's having a big mandal program. He want to invite Prabhupada. He is conducting big festival. He wants to invite Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, okay, I'm going to Europe trip. And devotee said, Prabhupada, you just said you want to retire now. Then he said, in this lifetime, it's not possible for me. In the battlefield, I want to die like a warrior. What is the glorious die on the battlefield if it is not? His father initially told not Prabhupada to cross the ocean. Indians are not allowed to cross the ocean because they will go on condemned. I mean, if they don't follow Indian culture, they go and mingle with the Westerners, they will give up all the pious activities. That's why Prabhupada, the father, was very, very much not approving. But Prabhupada crossed this ocean for preaching. Then Prabhupada was explaining how it is a pious land. One should be stay in India and one should preach this culture. And this is the para I just read it. And this is the ultimate humility of Prabhupada. And this is the lifetime instruction for all of us to follow. If somebody is not very clear what I'm supposed to do after retirement or what is that I'm supposed to follow in Krishna consciousness. This is the universal principle, universal instruction to Prabhupada. It is applicable to everyone, those who are in ISKCON. They also should travel and preach. He said they should do while they are young, and when they were old and matured in Krishna consciousness, they could go to Mayapur, retire, and simply chant Hare Krishna. Of course, for myself, Prabhupada added, I am not so mature. Prabhupada said, I am not so mature to go and do bhajana and retire my life in Mayapur. I am immature, I will still continue to preach. Then Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj said, Prabhupada, if you are not mature, what about us? And then Prabhupada said, it is up to the individual. If they think they're mature, they can preach during young, and in old age, they can go retire Mayapur and do bhajana. But I am not mature as far as I am concerned. Then Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj said, we are also should not retire because we will never become mature. If you are not going to become mature, Prabhupada, we should not be mature. So the message is that there is no retirement in Krishna conscious life. All the time we should preach. That's a message Prabhupada is giving wonderful. And he considered himself saying that he's not mature to go and do bhajana in a secluded place, which Prabhupada was already doing it in Vrindavan. Okay, then we are moving from Mumbai. Prabhupada wanted to go to Europe. Before Europe, and there was invitation to Hyderabad to a big Pendal program, and Prabhupada accepted happily. And also, this is the famous trip to Tirupati, Tirumala, and Prabhupada was revealing a lot of secrets about Lord Balaji. How is Krishna himself in the mood of Vrajavasi? It's a cowherd boy rather than is a Vishnu form. And Prabhupada, when he entered Tirupati, he sang this Govinda Madhipurusham. People is generally saying Govinda, Edu Gundalavada, Venkatramana. But Prabhupada, he sang this Govinda Madhipurusham when he entered. But let's see a little bit on the Hyderabad episode. Hyderabad, there was a big high school open ground program. And Aravind, as usual, in South India, people always talk about Saivites and Vaishnavite. Always they talk about this fight between who is bigger, Shiva or Vishnu. So the reporter asking same thing. And Prabhupada said, it doesn't matter what is that. People need grain. By doing India, you get a grain. And they need a grain to follow. They live life peacefully. Don't bring this unnecessary topic of Vishnu or Krishna. and everybody should follow Varnashram Dharma. So like that, Prabhupada answered them, and he did Aarti for Radha Madan Mohan. Deities were there in the pandal, and this Palavika Devi Dasi then started worshipping this Hyderabad temple. Then Prabhupada went for 2 days, 25th of April, to Tirupati. And generally, the foreigners are not allowed, but Prabhupada went to TTD. All the devotees were received well, and they are given a very special cottage, stayed in a hillside. Then they took darshan twice. Prabhupada always used to go 2 or 3 times for darshan in the 2 days when he stayed, and he used to stay closer to the closer inner chambers of Balaji, and he used to pray the beauties of temple. And Prabhupada said 45 somewhere 45 lakhs or something that time. He said Prabhupada is the like collections every day, and we should have temple like this. A lot of visitors should come. We should feed them a lot of prasadam. And the Prabhupada had discussion with the temple management. What you do with the money? They said they will renovate the temple, they'll construct the building. And he said construction, renovation is okay, but this Krishna Balaji is a child form of Krishna. So the message of Godhead should be preached, and we should spend a lot of money in propagating the message of holy name and the books of his teaching rather than spending money on the temple. Then they were talking about Panchapasana. I don't know what is that, but Prabhupada knew every subject matter. Then the devotee said they plan to construct another temple. Then Prabhupada criticized them. See, you are followers of Ramanuja. Ramanuja never told them to do anything on the Panchapasana. This is something recommended by Sankaracharya. Why you are all deviating and trying to follow that? And Prabhupada knew everything, and he is trying to put his view on that. And Prabhupada, and then talked about the glories of Balaji, and he really liked it, darshan. This is in the April 18th, 1974, after Pandal program, and again Prabhupada back to Bombay. Bombay. So then he also had communication between Mayapur. So we're going to see briefly the communication, the accounting management. This is the last part of the slide. After this, we can wind up. So this is another expertise. I said Prabhupada expertise in everything. Let it be accounting management, let it be a book distribution, let it be how to worship the deities, during morning program, how to wear saris, how to cook, how to behave, how to preach. Everything is there. Prabhupada, we just simply need to follow what Prabhupada said. So this accounting again is very clearly talking to His Holiness Jayapatka Maharaj and Bhavananda Prabhu. So they have written the detailed account. They sent a letter to Mumbai to Prabhupada to review. Prabhupada, after reviewing it, he wrote back. I know you are, Prabhupada wrote saying that if you are buying land, you are using money for land, that account from land should be used only for the land. Temple construction fund is different from temple maintenance fund. And if you are constructing a kitchen, if the particular money should be used for only kitchen. If it is Shastra Dan, we use for books distribution, then that should be different account. That should be used differently. Prabhupada, the expertise in everything, every field. Construction, Prabhupada would do work with the devotees, do architecture, how he wants the temple, he would do architecture. He wants to do accounts management, and he would clearly chalk out what is that needs to be done. Then Sorina Jayapatka Maharaj and Bhavananda thought, okay, we are displeased of Prabhupada, we might be using here and there funds mixing up. Then Prabhupada wrote a very nice, wonderful exchange of mails to them. I'll read out, it's very wonderful. I know you are working hard and sincerely. I have no business to criticize, but as a head of the institution of or your spiritual master, it is my duty to find out your faults. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presented himself as a faulty before his spiritual master. To remain faulty before the spiritual master is a good qualification, so he is subjected to rectification. But if one thinks he is all perfect, then there is no scope for rectification. Don't be sorry when I find fault. That is my primary duty. Then Chanakya Pandit says one must find fault with the disciples and sons. It is good for them. As a parent, as a guru, he should find fault so that there is a scope for rectification. You always say very goody things about the son, and there is no scope for improvement. So Prabhupada, putting very humbly his position, why he's trying to do that to Bhavananda as well as Iswarna Jayapatka Swami. And Prabhupada again accounting management for Vrindavan. I'm enclosing the checks requested by you, registered post, except I'm sending the one check for 3,000 for DT clothes. Now, during the temple construction, they want to take some portion of the money, do the DT dressing as well. Then Prabhupada said that account is different from temple construction. Construction is only for construction. DT maintenance, DT fanfaria, that fund should come from differently. And he told they were arranged Lalit Prasad, they were a tailor to stitch the deities, and Prabhupada said, better you ask the devotees to stitch rather than giving outsiders, and this fund should come from not from temple construction fund, you should have different. And Prabhupada personally uh, uh, designed the invitation, July 1974 temple inauguration. Probably I can show that uh, piece. Bro, are you able to see my screen? Okay, one second. I'm shared. You are able to see this?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So this is again Prabhupada personally designed this invitation. It reads that founder Acharya and the members of the International Society for Krishna Conscious request the pleasure of Mr. and Mrs. companies to visit the installation ceremony of Krishna Balarama Temple, August 8 to 10, and accept Prasadam. Gurudas Adhikari, local president, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, founder Acharya, Surabhidas Adhikari, secretary. With only 3 months left, Prabhupada plans were to travel from May through July, giving permission for transferring funds from Delhi Vrindavan. He left. He would return in 3 months for grand opening. So with this, I would end here. And Prabhupada is still in Mumbai. Then we will be traveling. Then we will see the opening of the temple. So with here, I would like to stop here. It is 8:50. If devotees have any reflections, want to add anything, correction?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for helping us relive these wonderful memories, especially many places, through many places and many important events. You highlighted very practical aspects, instructions from Prabhupada. Either it could be how to stay in Vrindavan, how to, view Vrindavan, and what are the other ways, but we should avoid offenses in Vrindavan. So many aspects, and also from accounting to how Prabhupada used to emphasize on preaching, many aspects on that. Thank you very much. Devotees can unmute themselves to share any reflections, or if they have any questions, please ask Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams.
Hare Krishna.
What are the two things Prabhupada told to do in Vrindavan? The things you are telling, we could not catch it, Prabhu.
Vrindavan, one is that people should stay not more than 3 days. And then we take the shelter of the association of the Vaishnavas, the sadhus, Vrindavan. When we go, it's not just seeing Vrindavan, it's also hearing, seeing through ears, taking a lot of things. And if you do any offenses, it multiplies by 100 times. And just Vrindavan is not just to eat prasadam and sleep. One should try to control their senses. And the preaching, the Vrindavan is not the place just we go and see, that's one thing, but it is state of consciousness. When we propagate the message of Vrindavan Chandra, then you are in Vrindavan. You not necessarily need to be physically in Vrindavan. You're always in the state of consciousness of Vrindavan. This is state of consciousness.
Prabhu, 3 days it is not possible for us to see the whole Vrindavan. That means we should go repeatedly.
I don't know, you asked Vaishnavas, but I don't know, this is what Prabhupada told.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Wonderful.
I know there are still few Maharajas, they don't visit more than 3 days. They stay 3 days, then come back. There are few senior Vaishnavas follow that. Prabhupada the same. But no time, place, circumstances, you can check with your who are mentoring you.
Coming.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
First time, Prabhu. Amazing. Very, very nice. Thank you so much.
HG Gaurachandra Gopinath Prabhu for sharing the nectar from the Prabhupada lilamritha. It was very nice, Prabhuji. Especially the Prabhupada's humility on that, I'm not matured enough. That was a very, very nice one. Prabhupada says he's not matured enough, and I think that's an instruction for all of us.
But he didn't say others. The wonderful thing is that they can decide. I can't decide them they're mature or not. If you think you're mature, you can retire. Prabhupada was very. He never said, I am not mature, so you're also not mature. Prabhupada never said that.
Yeah, that's very, very, very beautiful statement, Prabhuji.
See, Prabhupada was very sensitive, and he treated everyone as a advanced devotees, and he said, "Yeah, you might do so."
That's the real preaching mood Prabhupada is teaching us, actually.
There are a lot of things to learn from Prabhupada. It's all full instruction, nectar flowing in this lilamritha. Every word every sentence is a life-changing or guidance. So there are so many instructions.
Yes, Prabhu. His Holiness Satsuru Goswami Maharaj has very, very nicely captured the mood of Prabhupada across, across all the chapters. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Gaurachandra Gopinath Prabhu, Gopinath Pranam. So nice, wonderful, Prabhu. Prabhupada also talking about book distribution accounting. That's also really inspiring. How you're meticulous about maintaining accounts. Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhupada is all in all, every field, he could able to do it. So whatever account system we follow in ISKCON, most of the time what Prabhupada established, BBT account separately, and temple construction fund separately, the other account separately. Imagine, Prabhupada is genius.
Prabhuji, we talk about gap and all in the corporate industry, but Prabhupada has established that 50 years back. Even though
all the gaps, Prabhu.
Yeah, correct. Amazing. 60 years
back. Making the gaps, he filled all the gaps.
Thank you. In India?
Yes, Roj, we can. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasinubhyeva cha patiravanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada